Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Seth Baruch, and I'm National Director for Energy and Utilities for Kaiser Permanente. And I understand, I guess, we're the last presentation before lunch, so we'll try to be efficient here, as efficient as possible. So I'm going to talk today about a program that we've been implementing at Kaiser with the help of DERNetSoft, one of our primary energy analytics partners. And so I'm going to launch right into it. I think you'll have questions at the end. I'll talk a little bit about the business case or what we did as a company and the results that led to, and then Alberto from DERNetSoft will talk more about the platform itself. Anyway, so for those of you who don't know, Kaiser Permanente is one of the largest integrated healthcare systems in the country. We have both the insurance plan as well as the medical facilities. And so we have over 12 million members across the country and over probably now it's about 1,200 buildings. So as a footprint, we're quite large, and I sit within a group called National Facility Services that manages all of those buildings. So obviously we've got a big footprint. We use as much electricity as a small city, 1.5 million megawatt hours a year. And we have a dedicated staff of energy management, a dedicated staff of 2, me and one other person. So with 70 or 80 million square feet, that's hard to do, and so we need as many tools as we have in order to augment our reach. We have both we have hospitals, medical office buildings, so 9 to 5 facilities, 24/7 facilities. We've got data centers, admin space, you name it. And we have a pretty strong environmental mission as well, so we have been undertaking an effort for now, actually, I've been at Kaiser for 8 years, so pretty much since I started, of doing a lot of on-site renewables, fuel cells, battery storage, your basic distributed energy resources or DERs, and have had very little ability to track how those are performing. Now, we now have about 35 megawatts worth of fuel cells, about 60 megawatts worth of solar, a dozen or so battery installations, several microgrids, and it's very hard to track exactly how those are doing. And we actually, we started our journey here on this energy analytics platform with one use case. We actually started installing fuel cells because we wanted to, the idea was to save money on ever rising utility costs. And we started getting complaints from our facilities saying, wait, our gas bills have gone up so much, but our electricity bills haven't seemed to be going down as much as we would have thought. And the economics aren't just quite working out the way we thought. So we're like, that's not what we expected. And so we actually started looking for vendors to help us sort of understand exactly the energy production levels from these fuel cells, and we talked to a bunch of vendors. We actually started working with DERNetSoft on this initial project, and they gave us a solution that enabled us to see exactly when and how much these fuel cells were overproducing. We're generating more electricity than the facility needed, and we're exporting energy back to the grid, which in the case of fuel cells, you generally do at a loss. So we were losing money. And we were able to go to the fuel cell vendor and say, something doesn't seem quite right here. And we took their recommendation in terms of the sizing of the fuel cell. And for whatever reason, maybe the site implemented an energy efficiency project, or there's just the data that was used to size the fuel cells was anomalous or in some way. Anyway, we actually found out that a number of our fuel cell sites were actually oversized. And that enabled us to, one, in the future, to better size these units, and 2, to downsize the ones that were already there. And we had a very good partner. Our fuel cell vendor was willing to be cooperative, and so we solved that pretty easily. But we never would have been able to do it unless we had this platform. And what DERNetSoft was able to do is they took the fuel cell production data, the green button 15-minute interval data. And here's the thing, it has to be done, we could probably maybe do it at one site, but at 30 sites with a team of 2, it sort of became unwieldy. And that's where we needed the more advanced platform that we have now. So that was our first step in the journey. Then we actually started seeing, well, there were some billing errors with our solar bill. So typically the way Kaiser does, or at least up till now has been doing on-site solar projects, is a turnkey solution where a vendor comes and raises the capital, finances the project, owns the equipment, does all the O&M. It's, the site is basically just the host, and the facility pays a price per kilowatt hour for that electricity. The idea being that that price per kilowatt hour is less than would otherwise be paid to PG&E or what have you. But we did see that there were some billing errors, and that in some cases the level of production was less than what was contracted for. And again, not something that we can track easily. As I said, we now have 100 plus locations with on-site solar. When I started, it was maybe a dozen, and so we've ramped up over time. But you could probably scan a couple of spot check a few bills and stuff, but to actually have it be sort of systematically verified and audited was something that had to be done through some sort of automated platform. So we went to that next step in the journey, beyond the fuel cell net metering to solar PPA auditing, and so we're able now to tell, okay, these solar sites are underproducing, or maybe there's a billing error or what have you. Again, generally the vendors are very cooperative and happy to work with you, and so we've been able to resolve those issues, but again, not something that we would have been able to figure out on our own. So it's another example of a use case where the DERNetSoft platform has been helpful. The next step in the journey was actually, okay, well, now we can track how well our solar sites are producing or not producing, and billing accurately or not billing accurately, but are they actually saving us money? So Kaiser loves reducing its emissions and its carbon footprint. It loves saving money just as much, even more. And so there was a lot of interest and scrutiny for both fuel cells and solar, for all of our DERs, to say, well, are you actually saving money for the organization? After all, affordable healthcare is our mission. And in some cases, we were seeing that that the solar rates were, our tariffs were not optimized. So you put solar on a site, and maybe the tariff should be changed. The utilities got a whole schedule of rate tariffs, and we switched from one to another. But the key thing is we're able to use the platform to figure out exactly how much solar is being produced, how much that would have cost if we were buying that electricity from the utility. We know exactly what our demand charge savings are, because we know, across the billing cycle what the highest peak demand would have been. We know the demand charge per kilowatt, the rate per kilowatt hour, and so again, we would never, our little staff of two would never have been able to figure this out on our own. But through this platform, we can figure out exactly, okay, DERNetSoft is able to ingest all the data, all the billing information, and they can spit out exactly how much you're saving per month from a solar project. And in some cases, and this is an example you see here on the screen, is that the PPA rate we were paying was slightly higher than the avoided cost, and partly that was a result of we were on the wrong tariff. Again, we have 44 utilities, 100 plus sites. We never would have been able to do that on our own, but we actually were able to say, okay, well, if we were on this rate tariff versus that rate tariff, we'd be paying this versus that. And that has been very helpful for us. We've actually now gone to the utility for a few sites and said, okay, we want to be on TOU G3 instead of TOU G2 or whatever. So that's another way we've been able to use this, this platform. The next step in our journey, we're almost at the end here, but we started seeing, well, okay, this DERNetSoft platform is really helpful for all of our DERs, on-site solar, fuel cells, battery storage, et cetera. Someone within our, not on our team, but on another team came to us and said, hey, we've been hearing about this DERNetSoft thing. I have a question for you. We have no really easy way to figure out, how our nighttime setbacks are doing. Could you take a sample of buildings and tell us the ratio of energy use at 4 a.m. versus 2 p.m.? And do that across hundreds of buildings over an entire year. So not just a snapshot, but actually just a real trend. And we came up with some really interesting results. And you can see here that if you look there at the third column, the average on the table on the left, that last column there, those numbers are the ratio of 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. electricity usage. And you can see there the hospitals, not surprisingly, are 24/7 facilities. There's some reduction at night, but the majority, we only have 40 hospitals. The majority of our buildings are 9 to 5, and we were seeing that there were some buildings, and I point to the example at the bottom, where basically everything was on all night long, and the ratio of like 98%, 4 a.m. usage to 2 p.m. usage. And so we went to a number of our facility managers, and they would say, well, we have to keep the buildings on at night because, for whatever reason, there's a pharmacy or a lab or what have you. And sometimes they said, yeah, we'll change it. We'll change the setbacks. And anyway, so we actually started being able to show some results, because there's maybe you don't need to have the HVAC system on from overnight hour. Maybe you can shut it down from 10 to 4 and then still heat or cool the building to the point where it's ready for people to come in the morning. So so we actually talked about whether we could whether we could set a standard, and said usually the way we look at things is EUI, kBTU per square foot. And if we set a standard that said, okay, if the kBTU per square foot was I don't know. Well, you see here a couple of them are 0.4, 0.8, well below 1. We could be saving millions of dollars a year in energy costs. And some of our buildings were really high. I mean, 6 times higher than some other buildings. Anyway, this just gave us intelligence. It would be totally needle in a haystack otherwise. But now we say, okay, well, this MOB is way off. You talk to them. You figure out what's going on. You see if something can be changed. If the whole building has to stay on because there's a lab or a pharmacy, maybe you can do some sectionalizing and just rezoning, and somehow only having a portion of the HVAC system on that you really need. So it's just enabling us to have discussions we weren't able to have otherwise. Again, one platform covering 1,000 buildings, 1,000 meters, et cetera. And I just highlight here the one that was the 97%. We actually had a discussion with them, and what they were doing actually is they were only turning down the HVAC systems on the weekends. So those little dips there were the weekends, and the rest of the week they were well above 1.5 kBTU, or I'm sorry, watts per square foot, and then we had this discussion with them. And you can see exactly what happened when we had that discussion with the site. They turned off these systems every night, not just on Friday nights. And we had that. It's probably saving $10,000 or something, $20,000 a year in energy costs. But again, it's a proof of concept that with good intelligence, you can do things that are actionable that really have no or very low cost. So then we were like, should we do this? We do this for electricity. Turns out that with SoCal Gas, at least, you can do this with natural gas. So a number of our buildings in Southern California have hourly gas meters. It's not 15-minute interval data, but it's hourly gas meters. So we can actually see which buildings where the gas usage, again, not 24/7 facilities, these are 9 to 5, where the gas usage actually might be higher higher in the evening, used overnight, than during the day. And you can see here is a huge range, which we're really surprised about. Starting from 0.33, where you're using a third of the natural gas over the nighttime hours as during the day, to some buildings where it was like 5 times more. Well, that was a bit of a mystery. So again, we were able to talk to people, figure out what's going on, make changes when necessary, and show people this data. And we didn't name or shame people, but we just basically said, look, there's no reason why this should be going on. So those are some of the main use cases that we, really things we've been able to do that's actionable, that's saving us a lot of money, that's reducing our carbon footprint, that's optimizing our DERs, and enabling us to make the case to senior leadership that they should invest more in this program. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Alberto.
I should start saying, hello, San Francisco, wake up, or something like that. But I'll go with my slide. So I just want to thank you, Seth. I like when the customer actually talk about the platform and the value we provide because it's easy for me to sell. So I'm going to go through a few slides just to explain what is behind the value that Seth was talking about. And so just a brief introduction about the company. My name is Alberto Colombo. I'm founder and president. And the platform right now has more than, maybe those numbers are a little bit old, 2,000 site register. We cover millions of square footage. And as you can see, we have hundreds of DRs modeled into the platform. A few customer reference, but then I want to go actually into what took to actually do what Seth was talking about. So the challenges. So the market we are in, it's a kind of a new market. So distributed energy resources we intend the fuel cells, solar, energy storage. All these new resources are coming, and are coming big. So behind the meter, which is actually on the customer side, we see that now it's not anymore consuming energy, but most of the time producing energy. So the customer are now becoming prosumer, and that brings a lot of challenges in terms of how we collect data and how we integrate those data. So those are a few. I think the most challenging one is how we can automate data collection, for sure, and actually how we can break silos of data that are coming, because if you think about vendors, they come in and they have their own platform for solar, they have their own platform for EVs, they have their own platform for storage, fuel cell, CHP. So for Seth and for the customer, it's hard to really do any analysis because they have to integrate like 6 or 7 different streams of data. So we started to actually integrate everything in one place, which is our DERNetSoft platform, which is built on ADH. So we're actually using ADH as a main data store, which is perfect to also integrate data from other cloud service platform. I think the data sharing part also has been a big challenge because when you have these many stakeholders that needs to provide service on DRs, like OEM services, you have to design for a new solars, you have teams internal, like auditing team, sustainability team, they all need the same data. So having a platform that can digitally provide in a secure and safely way, I think that was a key. So we call energy community ecosystem because at the end of the day is a place or is a solution that actually enable data sharing and enable provisioning of data for all the energy stakeholders. So those are the few concepts that actually we built. So first of all, I think to achieve what we have seen, we need to have a platform approach. So the DERNetSoft is a software as a service platform. It's cloud-based and it's scalable. So you can start with one and you can scale up to hundreds of thousands in a really short time. So you can start with a limited scope as we did for fuel cell at Kaiser, and then you can add and add. And actually, this is a good representation of the same, how we grew, I call use case by use case, use cases by use cases, and now we have more than 1,000 of meters between gas and electric registering into the platform, and then Kaiser using the platform to really set some standards that are improving energy efficiency, but also allowing them to track their sustainability plan. Data collection, as I said, was important. So we built a lot of automation, how the data are collected, but also how they are digitized and standardized into the platform. So if you think about 40 utility territories or more, you need to have a data store to ingest everything in one place, but also you need to use standards. So you can then run the analytics and provide insight that, talking the same language. And that's not really easy because utilities tends to provide data in different way. So it was great to have actually ADH as a good data store already into the energy space, because that allowed us to really implement this standardization. I think I already talked about the integration of the different streams. That's the architecture. So you can see how the DERNetSoft is basically a software as a service layer on top of AVEVA Data Hub, which is our platform as a service layer. We built integration between cloud services and also on-site, on-prem services, so we are able to collect data into ADH, standardize, and then run our suite of analytics to serve the end-user customer. In this case, Kaiser Permanente, but as you can see, along the way, we were able to actually provide data and services to service provider or project developers, DR vendors. So you can see how now the solution is not anymore a standalone solution, but become really an ecosystem. I think, yeah, those are some of the screenshots from our user interface where we provide different portfolio level view, single site view, and we also publish our KPI in terms of greenhouse gas emission reduction, UI, any other, and the load profile. So that's the 50 minutes interval data level that is a great starting point for doing analysis without starting up with the huge investment in terms of cost. So the benefits of the platform, we believe, is strongly in replicability. So if you have something that is scalable, then you can replicate this model into a different industry. So subscription-based model has been great. It's a annual subscription fee. It allows to start, as I said, without big or huge investment upfront. It's a scalable platform. You can start with one and go up to 1,000, and it provides the data collection. I think we already get. That's the next step for us, is leveraging the energy community feature or the community feature of the ADH platform to be able to then replicate and extend the use of ADH through our services to all the stakeholders of the energy ecosystem. You wanna, yeah, Seth, you wanna? So we just have a quick closings on the return on investment, which is always a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I covered some of this before, but basically we're, with the better energy analytics, we're saving millions of dollars a year in excess energy costs that we'd otherwise be paying. And it's causing folks to look at new standards, particularly the nighttime setbacks. Again, it just, once you can see the very visual things I showed you, it really hits home as to, why are we doing this or why are we not doing this? And it's very important, as I alluded to before, for our senior leadership to say, okay, you're doing all this on-site stuff, that's great, we love solar panels, fuel cells, et cetera, but what are the real economic savings? And really, we've been able to estimate that now. We get it down pretty accurately. And the next steps in our journey really are going to be integrating. We have a massive EV charger rollout program. We're probably going to deploy another 1,000 or 2,000 chargers in the next couple of years. That could have pretty substantial impacts on demand, so we want to know what that's going to mean for our facilities, demand charges, et cetera. So we're integrating our EV charging platform, which is managed by our vendors, into DERNetSoft. Yeah, we're also, the other big area we've been looking at is ways to reduce our Scope 1 emissions. We've got net zero goals. Greening our electricity supply was sort of the easy part, was easier, and now we're looking at Scope 1 reductions, real ways to reduce natural gas usage in our facilities. So I think that covers that.
Yeah, I think we got the conclusion.
Yep.
I think we just covered that. I think my takeaway on this journey has been really to build a platform that can scale. I think ADH has been a great platform to build our service on top, and AVEVA a great partner. So we are looking forward to really replicate this model to other industries. So if you guys have any interest in that, I think we can go to that. Those are our contacts. So feel free to reach out.